We're going to continue to look at solving quadratics. Today we're going to look at solving quadratics through looking at the graph of your function. The solutions to a quadratic function are called roots of the equation. Roots are basically where you're crossing the x-intercept, which is also referred to as your zeros. So really your zeros, your roots, your x-intercepts, and your solutions are all pretty much the same thing in regard to looking at quadratic equations. So let's go ahead and solve this quadratic equation by graphing. To graph it, you're going to replace your 0 with f of x. Now that it's a function, you can go ahead and graph it. Once again, you want to use your negative b over 2a. So you go the opposite of negative 3 over 2 times a. And so in other words, you get 3 over 2, or 1.5. So you know the x-coordinate of your vertex is at 1.5. So you're going to have 1.5. Choose 3 numbers on one side of 1.5. Choose the next 3 numbers on the other side of 1.5. Take your negative 2, plug it into your equation. Take your negative 1, plug it into your equation. Take your 1, plug it into your equation, and so on. And do that for the whole rest of the t-chart. Then go ahead and plot your points. So left 2 up 6, left 1 up 0. And continue to plot your points. And you're going to get a graph that looks like this when you plot all your points and connect them with a nice smooth curve. You can see from looking at the graph that we have an x-intercept that occurs here because it crosses your x-axis there, and also one that occurs here. That shows up over here on the left where you have an output of 0. So we really have two x-intercepts where your y-coordinate is 0. The two x-intercepts once again are negative 1 and 4. So we need to go ahead and solve this one also by graphing. But to graph or solve it by graphing, you need to have it set equal to 0. So let's get 0 over here by adding 4 to both sides. Now that we have it set equal to 0, we can replace your 0 with f of x so that we can have a function to graph. Then you want to use your negative b over 2a. Once again, negative b over 2a would be a 4, opposite of a negative 4 over 2, and so we get 2. So now you want to go ahead and choose 2 for the middle of your t-chart, and then choose 3 numbers on each side of 2. Plug those into your function to get your output. Then you want to go ahead and graph those points. Left 1 up 9, left 0 up 4, right 1 up 1, right 2 up 0, right 3 up 1, 4 to the right and 4 up, and so on. Now, looking at this, we see that our graph only touches our x-axis at 2. Also, over here looking at your table, you have an output of 2 for your y, or output of 0 for your y, so you know that you have one root or solution there. So since your graph only touches once, we have one root, 0, or x-intercept, and that's when your x is 2. So let's take a look at this one here. Find two real numbers whose sum is 4 and whose product is 5. Well, I'm going to say x is the first number. If the sum is 4, the other one would have to be 4 minus x. Because if you ended up adding these two together, if you take this plus this and add them together, because that's what your sum is saying, the x's would drop, leaving you with 4, which we know we want. You could also think, well, if x was 1, the other number would have to be 3. How do you get that? You go 4 minus your initial value of 1 to give you your 3. So, and now says the product. So you got to take your x, which is your first number, times your other one, which is your 4 minus x, because product is your answer after you multiply. You now want to go ahead and solve this by graphing. So you're going to have it set equal to 0, but we also want to eliminate the parentheses. So we'll eliminate the parentheses first, get it set equal to 0 by subtracting 5 from each side. And so then we end up with a negative x squared plus 4x minus 5. Now it would also work if you would have moved everything from the left side to the right side. You would actually end up getting the same answer. Your graph will look different, but you would get the same answer. So whatever we have set equal to 0 is what we're going to graph. Then you want to use the negative b over 2a, so the negative b over 2 times a, and so you get 2 again. So for your t-chart for graphing, you're going to go 2 in the middle, go 3 points on each side, plug these values into your function, and then plot your points. First one, left 1, down 10. Left 0, down 5. Right 1, down 2. Right 2, down 1. Right 3, down 2, and so on. Now, you'll notice we always have negatives on our chart of what we're getting out. Also, you'll notice your graph is always below the x-axis because your y values are always negative. Since your graph never crosses the x-axis, we know we have no solutions. So we have no real solutions. There would be complex solutions here, but we're not going to be real concerned about that today. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one here. On this one here, we need to go ahead and estimate the roots of this quadratic. So we're going to go ahead and do the negative b over 2a stuff. We're going to treat this right here as your f of x. Negative b over 2a would be a 6 over 2 times 1, so we get 3. So you want to choose 3 numbers on each side of 3. The 3 numbers here, 3 numbers here. Take 0, plug it in. Take 1, plug it in for your x. Take 2, plug it in. Take 3, plug it in. Take 4, plug it in, and so on. Plot your points in your graph. We would know we would have 2 solutions because it crosses twice. Once right here, once right here. But we don't exactly know where. We just know it crosses between 0 and 1. Here we know it crosses between 5 and 6. And so those are going to be our estimates between 0 and 1 and between 5 and 6. Now, you also can figure out your zeros and estimate them by just looking at your chart. Because when you look at your chart, when you switch from a positive to a negative, like we are right here, so at 0, you're above, at 1, you're below, or when you go from a negative to a positive, meaning at 5, you're below, but at 6, you're above, it has to cross. And so where your y values switch from a positive to a negative or vice versa, you know between those two x values, you need to have a solution.